Will there be bad blood on Sunday Night Football between the Packers and the 49ers this week? On Thursday, Mike Silver put together a 10-tweet thread. We're glad you're watching our video. Give it a like and subscribe to this channel.
You know that more than 50% of you are not subscribed? Do that right now.
We're sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka.
Also, podcast below in the description.
Wednesday, Matt LaFleur said he holds no ill will towards Kyle Shanahan, longtime friend and colleague. But the Rodgers situation before the draft created a lot of drama between LaFleur, Shanahan, their mutual friends and coaching colleagues last spring, John. One in particular story underscores that strain. Minutes before the 2021 draft, Mike McDaniel, Niners OC, was FaceTiming with Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur, who's Matt's younger brother. Those two are in Jersey. They're in charge of the Jets. McDaniel's office was open. Some other Niners coaches come in. They're bullshitting with each other. My words, not his. And Shanahan comes into the room. Now, a couple hours earlier, NFL Word had been rocked by reports that Rodgers' desire to leave Green Bay and a report that the Niners have called the Packers, Shanahan to LaFleur, to inquire about the trade. Now the Niners are getting ready to pick third overall. The Jets had the 2 pick. Somebody in the room, Shanahan says to Saleh and Mike LaFleur, I hope you guys don't take a different quarterback and cross us up. We haven't looked that hard at Wilson.
That in itself is a little crazy, but keep going.
Yep. Second time Shanahan's admitted to not doing his due diligence on all the quarterbacks. What do you mean? We already got our quarterback, said Mike LaFleur. Aaron Rodgers. You already got your quarterback, says Mike LaFleur of the Jets, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Shanahan tries to brush it off as a joke. He says, hey, tell your brother to call me back. He hasn't returned my calls. Mike LaFleur says, can you blame him? At that point, according to Mike Silver, Shanahan gets upset, hastily leaves the room. In his eyes, he was merely doing his due diligence on behalf of the franchise. To Mike LaFleur, it was clear that blood is thicker than water. Garth Brooks once sang about that. Sunday night approaches. It's heartening that Matt LaFleur and Shanahan are downplaying any tension. They're both accomplished coaches, and the NFL is a stressful business. As for now, Rodgers remains property of the Packers. I don't know if you're allowed to use that language. Okay.
One thing you left out that just stands in my mind on the thread was like the Packers thought there was some funny business because John Lynch and Aaron Rodgers are both represented by David Dunn. So, you know, some connection, some back channeling, just some funny business going on. Yeah. I still don't quite understand. There's clearly more to it than just, you know, why would he, or, you know, why would he call you back? Right? Why would Shanahan get so worked up? Like something else had to be said for him to get super pissed off and storm out of the room, I feel like. Yeah, surrounding the situation.
So first things first, if we're accepting this whole 10-tweet thread premise and we're going to dive into it, right?
I think Silver is pretty tied in with just the Shanahan crew. Like I feel pretty confident. Like those guys, Aaron Rodgers' boy, he's known Mike since the 1992. I do trust Silver pretty high level on this, that even if it's not 100%, it's probably closer to 90 than it is 50, right?
Well, let me say this. Yes, I agree with you, because I think there are some people who go, Silver, I got a few replies like this, like, Silver's a hack. I don't believe anything he says. Like, well, I mean, believe whatever you want, but he knows a lot of the interested parties here. So a couple things I would say. I don't think from the evidence, from the things that we think happened, Kyle did anything wrong. But I would say if you did something wrong and you're feeling a little guilty about it, getting pissed when someone calls you on it is probably the first reaction, right? Yeah. If you were to feel a little guilty about something. Or if you're like,
you're a Raider hater. Fuck you.
Yeah. Like, but you are. But so that's the first thing. That would be, if you're asking the question, why would it bother Kyle? That could be the first thing. It's like he was doing he wasn't doing anything wrong, but he also didn't totally feel good about it. And he wished he didn't have to be in that situation. That could be possible. Also, like, he might be saying, no, I'm doing my job. You're doing your job. Like, let's separate I'm not trying to screw you guys. But if you weren't the coach of the Packers, I would be inquiring on Aaron Rodgers. And so I still have to do that for what's best for my organization. How dare you treat me like my priority is to you as a friend and not they're paying me $28 million or whatever to be in charge of this organization here.
I think where this gets very complicated is I think that's pretty nuts how tight all these guys are. And then you realize, like, LaFleur not the Green Bay Packers coach, but the offensive coordinator with the Jets and Saleh were just there for 4 years. Like, they are really tight, right? That group that's just very tight-knit little crew. I do understand from Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, his career success in the future, right? What he's already had, very tied to Aaron Rodgers. In the future, very tied to Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, right? If you finally got a girlfriend and then you got married and she's just a dime and you're in love head over heels and you're just like, I'm going to have the greatest life for the next 50 years I could have possibly ever had. And all of a sudden you feel like someone's going to take that away from you. And then you go, that's my connect. We were boys. We're all in this crew together. We are considered shoulder to shoulder as like we're the group taking over the NFL, all of us. And now it feels like you're kind of trying to fuck me in a shady way. Not that you inquired. I think it gets back to, were you guys working the back channels? Now, part of it, if you're LaFleur, it's like your quarterback, if he's working the back channels, he probably was the one that went to Lynch, right? Or potentially. So it's not just there. They weren't actively like, do you think we could just randomly, out of nowhere, it'd be, if a story came out, they had reached out to Tom Brady's people and see if the Tampa Bay Bucks would trade Tom Brady now to the Niners. They were willing to take Tom and see if he wanted to come up. They'd be like, what? That's not what happened here. They, to me, were alerted. And like you said, yeah, you're my friend. I love your brother, Saleh, who you were the best man at the wedding. Like, all these connections, guy, are more powerful than just your typical, they worked on the same staff for 3 years, right? It's like me and you if we had like 5 other people. It's a very tight-knit deal. But I think LaFleur is taking his anger out on Kyle when really it's more Aaron.
Get in our DraftKings game. Sign up with the code HAM. The link is below. Go get in it.
Yep, promo code HAM. Also, mybookie.ag. You want to gamble this weekend? Use the promo code HAM1. Play some bets.
Yeah,
and Kyle had to follow up.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that complicates it, right, is that Aaron is under contract with the Packers. So if you're LaFleur, don't call me, and I don't know if this is what happened, but maybe this is how he's viewing it. Don't call me and act like this is the first call you've made about this situation if you've already talked, or somebody on your side has already talked to Aaron, right? That's
like,
what
hey,
you would,
bro, any thought about Rodgers for pick 3?
I just saw this
Schefter
tweet. News to me, but right, like that's where you're LaFleur, you'd be pissed if you didn't believe that first call was actually the first inquisition.
But he doesn't, and he shouldn't.
And he doesn't, and he shouldn't. But if Aaron Rodgers is trying to get himself to the 49ers, is that the 49ers' fault?
No, that's my point. Like, that's like, if your wife is the one reaching out to other people, it's hard to get mad at the guy that she ends up with, even if he's your friend. I mean, I understand it, but like, she was the one that initiated the talk. Rodgers was the one that initiated all this. If he had never said anything and just stayed quiet and never went to Hawaii with the tellers and just been like, I'm a Packer, I love the Packers, we're going to win the Super Bowl in 2021, the Niners never would have asked. This wasn't an out of the blue. They were contacted. I think that's pretty clear, right?
I'm not mad at the SEC because Texas and Oklahoma wanted to leave the Big 12 to come to the SEC, right? It's not the SEC's job to not pick up the phone. And this 100%. Is a little different. There's no tampering rules in college football. Conferences can try to steal teams, right? In sports, it's very clear. Like, I, as the owner of one team or the coach of one team, cannot reach out to a player who's under contract on another team.
Here's where I can't understand if LaFleur was pissed off. If LaFleur didn't know about it, let's just assume he didn't know Aaron was all mad at Gutekunst. Like, it was quiet, and they weren't alerted to his anger at their inability to alert him to anything that's going on in the organization. They're just, in the clouds or whatever. And all of a sudden, Kyle gets wind of this, that Kyle doesn't reach out to him and be like, hey, bro, you got a quarterback problem. He's reaching out to us saying to trade for him. I could understand from his point, like, Kyle, we've known each other for a decade plus. Our families are now tied together. It wouldn't even be crazy if one day, if you heard like one of the LaFleur's godfather was Kyle, like, we are in the solid, like, you wouldn't tip me off to this. I understand it's competitive balance, but over my fucking dead body, I would ever trade you, Rodgers. Why wouldn't you tell me, like, we have a problem? That is, to me, would be understandable, right? Yeah, instead of calling to ask, will you trade my quarterback? Like, you don't need to act like Bill Belichick here. Just be like, hey, man, some weird stuff's going on with Aaron. You and Goot should get together and look into this. That to me would probably be the thing a friend would do. So if you're LaFleur, I could understand hating him after that. Like, you tried to fuck me.
Especially the thing that complicates it too, right? Is it feels like there was an expiration date on this whole experience, right? In that, like, the trade's about to happen tonight. So if we're gonna do it, we got to do it right now.
Like they were going to put him on it. They were going to put LaFleur and Gutekunst back against the wall on a deadline. Like, he might not come back to you.
Right,
so
that's what Aaron wanted.
And
we talked about this at the time. That Aaron, to me, the reason that broke when it broke is because Aaron wanted them in a position to have to do something that they wouldn't do if they had 3 weeks to think about it, right? Like, all right, we can get the third pick in the draft. Now, the counter argument would be if you had done it a month earlier, maybe they could have fallen in love with Trey Lance on their own, and maybe they would have wanted to do the trade, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't think the strategy of it all necessarily worked. It obviously didn't work in the way that we think Aaron wanted it to work. But you're right. There is a world where you go, hey, man, you got a problem, and we will 100% take advantage of that problem if we can. But obviously we need, like, the Niners do need the Packers in order to do that trade. The Niners can't do that deal without Green Bay.
No.
So in the end, it doesn't do them a lot of good to keep Green Bay in the dark.
Agreed. One problem, though, I see is just from a human element. It's hard to balance when you become really good friends with someone and then you go to competing entities and then you just look at it through the prism of, I'm just worried about me and my team. Like, our friendship is separate from the industry we're in, so we have to be really aggressive. I think because of the extreme nature of this one, like what you just said, he could have been like, Kyle, I would never trade him to you. You know that in a million years. So for you to ask, like, and pretend like you're just kind of in the dark, is kind of offensive to me.
Well, if I think you started it with him, or that you've been talking to him before you talked to me.
But clearly the Niners wouldn't start it with Rodgers. They would need him to reach out, which is pretty obvious that he did, right? Or through his
and you pick up that call, but then the next call is, hey, Packers, here's what's going on. We will 100% do this deal. So you guys go talk to Aaron and you figure out if you can't get it. We want to do a trade right now.
Yeah.
For Aaron Rodgers.
And I would imagine people that are really, really tight, that conversation in situations that are probably much less would be the magnitude of Aaron Rodgers. It could just be like a star corner or something. Those conversations have happened over the years in football, right? With friends. Like, hey, man, you got a problem. Just because like, they're not going to trade him to me. So even if he wants to come to me, he's my friend. Listen, I'm not even worth my headache. But I bet there's been other instances where that has not happened. So it's just the nature of, I'd just say, the business, right? I mean, sometimes business, you got to worry about yourself first.
I don't want to be wrong about this. I don't want to speak out of pocket, get my flowers. But if I recall, no cap, that night or the day or two after, am I wrong, or were the stories about how it played out, the order of phone calls and the timing of phone calls, did they not quite? Was there a little? It was like, wait, I thought you said that so-and-so called so-and-so, but it was John, not Kyle, or it was Kyle. Wasn't there a little bit of difference between the stories that got told, like Thursday, Friday, Monday?
I think it's clear where LaFleur is coming from is understandable, right? Looking back. It's hard to blame him. I think every single human being in his seat, that LaFleur, that's the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, would have the same reaction. And if Mike Silver is kind of what he's alluding to, is really mad and thinks Kyle would have really fucked him if he could have.
Teams piss each other off all the time. It's just rare that there's like this 3-team triangle FaceTime going on, right? Teams get pissed.
I don't think it's that weird for the Niners and the Jets to be bullshitting their friends. They're just like, who are you going to draft, messing with each other?
Right. I'm just saying teams piss each other off all the time because I don't care. Right. I'll piss off another GM. I don't give a rip about him. Like, this is bloodthirst. But it's rare that there's like so many intertwined relationships in the whole thing. Right. And Mike LaFleur, how about Mike LaFleur? Kind of, obviously Matt had vented to him
big time, and Saleh maybe. Saleh's best man at his wedding. I mean, this is a little off topic, but I mean, it's part of the thread. What if they would have taken Trey Lance? What would the Niners have done?
I know. Taking Mac Jones.
Probably. Because Kyle, like, obviously, remember last year, even in mid-COVID, Adam Peters was at the BYU game. Once, his momentum had kind of started, the scouting staff had watched Zach Wilson, but had Kyle not wasted a minute on him?
That would have been a desperate I said this starting the day after the draft. From what I'd heard, I believed it was not Justin Fields that was after Trey Lance. It was Mac Jones that Kyle had liked. And this is where, we spent so much time killing all the people who said they're drafting Mac Jones. And I've said this since the beginning of it. Like, you can kill all the people who said it's going to be Mac Jones if you want, but I didn't think all that stuff was nothing as we look back on it. Like, I think Kyle liked Mac Jones.
He did.
And there's a lot of evidence that he did.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's a great question. Like, now, would Adam Peters be right there with a booklet as thick on Zach Wilson as he had on Mac Jones going,
you only get 10 minutes.
Kyle, you got 10 minutes. I'm telling you, if you were prepared to take Trey, then you should take Zach.
That could have got dicey fast. That could have got dicey fast. This is a little lesson. Now they don't have a first-round pick for a while. Kyle, you do have some time between, like, free agency and the draft to just the main position. You might as well just do a little of this tape study. Maybe he falls in love. He just loves hard. So once he finds what he wants, he's all in.
Yeah.
The problem is in the draft, if you're not drafting one, you never know what's going to happen in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, if the Jets had not been the team drafting two, he probably would have had to do some more work, right? Maybe he felt a little comfortable with the Jets based on who was there.
Well, I mean, if they're FaceTiming him day of the draft, it's what we already knew. They are very tight with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But,
I mean, Robert Saleh does owe Kyle a lot. Made him a defensive coordinator when no one else would have. First 2 years were ugly. Kyle stuck with him, changed his life, right? Not only made him a famous NFL human, then led to him becoming a head coach. Not that he didn't deserve it, but, I mean, you are tied to the person that kind of puts you on the map, right? At the highest of level, and then changes the fortunes of your family.
Right. Yes.
When you're not, I don't think if they were coaching at Miami and he was at the Jet, like, is that happening? It's easy given the teams they're on, right? Joe Douglas, if you're Joe Douglas, do you love that phone call? Like,
no.
Hey guys, what are we
but
doing
again,
here?
that phone call was Mike McDaniel and Mike LaFleur. Yeah, I mean, those guys were probably so fired up. Mike LaFleur and Saleh, they just done all their work. They got their first draft. They're in charge. Mike McDaniel, who called who? Mike McDaniel FaceTimes him just to mess with him, you know?